We've got tips and recipes for healthy living. So for fun and inspiration, come and join us in the raw food world.
Welcome everybody, this is Matt Monarch and
Angela Stokes Monarch and Araya Berry Monarch wearing trousers.
for the first time ever.
First time ever. Very strange.
And she just pretty much threw everything off our desk a second ago. Did you? Yeah. With the Raw Food World TV show. And today we've got Angela Stokes Monarch who's going to be discussing raw emotions. And because a lot of people, what they want to do is they want to improve their diet, eat whole foods or raw foods, and be healthy and heal. And for many people, they try with every might of their being, but they don't succeed for some reason or another. And there's a lot of emotional aspects that come along with this type of thing. So we've got Angela Stokes Monarch here, who might have some words of advice for us today.
Yeah, I'm going to do my best amidst baby distractions to share some thoughts on this theme, which is the primary theme of my book, Raw Emotions. So you can always go and check that out for more clarity, less baby jumping. So I guess where I wanted to start today in terms of the emotional connection with food is if we look at food at the kind of simplest level, we could think of it as fuel for the physical body. Like why does an animal eat? You know, it's just eating to fuel its physical body to stay alive. We could look at it that way. Whereas if we look at the reasons why many humans in our societies, especially, you know, kind of westernized, civilized societies eat, if you ask somebody why they eat something, it could be because they're celebrating or because they feel like they deserve it because they had such a hard day at work or something. You know, there's many reasons that people might give for why they're eating something that go way beyond simply fueling the physical body. You know, we have all of these like emotional reasons around why we eat things. We eat because we're happy, we eat because we're sad, we eat all of these things. So to me, this is very interesting, you know, as somebody who comes from a background of morbid obesity from overeating, you know, I'm very curious about all of this. Why and how do these patterns get set up and how can we adjust them if we want to? I guess the main thing that strikes me to think about in terms of this is eating as a replacement for intensity, which is something that was illustrated very clearly to myself recently. I mean, it's something that I've seen for a long time, is eating as a crutch, you know, eating as an addiction, as a way of trying to fill a gap in your life that cannot be filled with food. You know, you're trying to fill like a kind of spiritual or emotional chasm in your life with something physical. Doesn't work, whether it's alcohol, cigarettes, food, whatever it is. And recently we had an experience that just illustrated this to me so clearly. We had an event coming up one day that felt particularly emotionally intense to both of us. And we were trying to eat on the same day. And often we don't do that. You know, if there's something intense coming up emotionally, we often will delay eating or we'll just live on liquids that day or whatever it is, because it's very challenging to process strong emotions and to digest food at the same time. So we had something coming up that felt very intense and we were trying to eat, and it was just so interesting because it was really, really, really hard for both of us to eat. We couldn't really do it. And it became so clear that, you know, we were experiencing intense emotions that in that instance happened to not be particularly pleasant emotions, You know, it felt there was nervousness and anxiousness and those kind of things. And so eating, you know, wasn't really flowing in that context. And because the intensity of the emotion was the main thing. And what became clear to me was that intensity of emotion could rather be there in a more positive state. You know, imagine if that intensity of emotion was because of your incredible connection to spirit, because of the amount of joy that you're experiencing, you know, that kind of intensity. Imagine that was there to such a high degree that eating was kind of didn't sit right, didn't feel right. If any of you have read the Anastasia books, that's pretty much the perception that I get of the way in which she interacts with food. You know, she doesn't sit down and eat a big heavy meal like many of us might do. She barely eats anything at all because her connection with spirit is so intense. And spirit, the creator, nature, whatever you want to think of it as, God, her intensity of connection is so strong. The food is just kind of there, you know, going in on some level just as fuel in some way. So I find all of these kind of things very interesting. You know, the perception of intensity and using things as addictions, possibly instead, you know, like food, cigarettes, alcohol. There's a wonderful quote from, I believe it was from Carl Jung, who said, what man is really missing is intensity of experience. So that's just something to ponder, you know, like, where are you getting your intensity of experience from? Is it directly from source, directly from nature, God, spirit, whatever you want to call it? Or are you trying to fill in that gap with something else, whether it's food or whatever? So, in my book, Raw Emotions, there is an absolute mass of tips for different ways of restructuring your emotional connection with food, if that's something that you might want to do. And this is all kinds of different tips, whether it's like just really practical, simple little day-to-day things for handling cravings as they arise in the moment, or whether it's kind of things from a bigger point of view, like creating your whole kind of optimal vision for your life, tuning in through meditation or prayer every day to how you're showing up, you know, bigger kind of picture things like that, more practical little things. The whole book is just full of all of that kind of stuff. I guess the main thing that I want to share in terms of what does it look like to do that, to actually be willing to look at your emotional connection with food and to do something about it, which, you know, if you're willing to look at that and do that, then amen to you, because a lot of people are not willing to do that whatsoever. So if you're willing to do that, I guess what I'd like to summarize is, in my experience, the main thing you're going to be doing is letting go. It's likely that if you identify with the kind of things that I'm speaking about today, you probably built up patterns during a lifetime of lots of attachment towards food, and you probably developed very cyclical attachment patterns in your head around food. You know, I eat this in this situation, I eat this with this person, and I eat this because I'm feeling this, and there can be such intense patterns that we go through. And if you're willing to start breaking that up, the main thing you're going to be going through is just letting go over and over again on all kinds of levels. You know, letting go emotionally, letting go of all this different baggage, letting go of your expectations, letting go of exactly things that you eat in, you know, different rituals that you might have set up. Letting go over and over again. that's the main theme that you're going to probably be working with. And again, it could be on a really simple level, really practical, like if you start to feel what you're perceiving as hunger, you could ask yourself some questions like, well, hang on a minute. Right now, what I would usually do is stuff that piece of cake over there in my mouth. What happens if I take a deep breath instead? What happens if I ask myself a few questions instead? Like, well, is that what I really want to do? Like, am I actually genuinely hungry? Do I genuinely have physical hunger in my physical body? So letting go of that immediate kind of reactive behavior and replacing it instead with things that potentially feel more nourishing. Thinking about what would it look like for me to have the intensity in my life showing up as an intense, amazing relationship to nature and to other humans, service in my community, really caring about other people, feeling like this really strong connection to spirit. What would it be in my life? What would it take and what would it look like for that to show up, for the intensity in my life to show up in that way, rather than it showing up through my intense relationship with food, rather than that being the primary focus of your life, which for me it definitely was. If you've read Raw Emotions or you've heard me speak on this subject before, you've probably heard some of my different stories of how, food was absolutely the focus of my whole life. I literally would go to sleep at night excited to wake up the next morning so that I could eat again. That was the kind of person who I was. I was consuming countless thousands and thousands of calories a day, had very little connection to any other humans. Humans were just like an annoyance to me. And so, food was definitely the strongest relationship, the most intense relationship that I had in my life. And I'm super grateful that that is not the situation anymore, that I managed to get out of those circles in my head. And I absolutely believe that if I can do that, as a 300-pound, morbidly obese, miserable person, if I can get out of that kind of reality and have been here now on this path for 10 years, if I can do it, anyone can. So I wish all of you guys the very, very best with this kind of processing. If this is something that you're looking into, I hope there's something in here today that spoke to you or resonated for you, and there's plenty more to explore in my Raw Emotions book if you feel drawn to that. I would also, at this point in my life, highly encourage everybody and anybody to check out non-violent communication further if you're interested in exploring what it is that's going on for you internally. On this theme or any theme, actually. I'm finding nonviolent communication to be the most incredible personal transformation tool right now, which it isn't even necessarily created for, It's perhaps more something that you might think of in terms of communication between people, but for me personally, I am absolutely loving NVC for personal exploration at the moment. So you could check out cnvc.org for the main website about nonviolent communication, or we also sell the nonviolent communication book. There's tons of different resources out there. It's also called compassionate communication a lot of the time. So I think that's everything that I wanted to share, to give a quick overview of what that picture might look like, linking emotions and food, and I wish you guys all the best with it if you're willing to look at it.
I love the letting go concept over and over again and again,
Deep.
and the same thing again.
Okay.
Okay, so a lot of people were asking about the spiritual aspects, which we're going to do maybe next time. And who do we got here?
I'm
Princess X Monarch and a Mariah Berry Monarch.
The Queen and the Princess. No, the Princess and the Princess. And we'll see you next time. And Matt Monarch at the Raw Food World TV show.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again at the Raw Food World.